Harer Nama eva kevalam. Kalo nasteva 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 gatiranyata.
So I've been told by Gopi Manohar Prabhu to speak from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, verse 32 and 33. Is that correct?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So I recite the verse and then basically translate
Uh,
it, read the translation, correct?
yeah, translation and purport. If it is too long, you can just read a few lines and then you can start.
Uh, the pretty
Or
important purpose, actually, quite important. So I think we can
okay,
read as
yeah,
much
yeah,
as,
yeah.
and then
Please.
we can make a comment on it. Yeah. So because usually what we do is that we read the translation and the purport, and then we do the invocation prayers. But I'll do the invocation prayers first, and then
Okay,
basically because we'll be going through the purports. Okay. So I'll start with the
okay.
invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gananata Maranandasya Jana Jana Salakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tashmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutalam Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Pada Kamalanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priya Vancha Karpaturvescha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Sanyavadi Paschata Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna. So firstly, I'd like to thank the Sangha of Gopi Manohar Prabhu and all the devotees in. Are you all from different parts of India, or is it just Bombay, or what is it?
Yeah, Prabhu. No, it's different. So some Thane, some Goa, some Calcutta, somebody from US, so all different.
US, so time difference is also there for them, huh?
Yeah,
Very
one
nice,
from Canada.
very nice, very nice. So I'm very, very happy to be with you all and try to make some small attempt to read from this amazing treasure of. It's in English, correct? By the way, sorry, Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhu. I
Not
think
not
you will have
trans.
difficulty in Hindi. We can do it in Hindi, but for you, we are doing it in English.
Yeah, not translation, correct?
No, it's okay.
Yeah. So this we are fortunate to be reading from this amazing treasure of the Vedic literatures, the prime of all Vedic literature, Shrimad Bhagavatam. And it is sometimes inconceivable for us to understand, especially for me, that such a person as me can actually dive into such an incredible literature as Shrimad Bhagavatam. In Kali Yuga, we find that there are thousands and millions and trillions and zillions of different types of literatures. And even if you pick out all the Vedic literatures from all that, still one will not get the essence. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is the complete essence of what one should be doing in their constitution position as the spirit soul. And Srimad Bhagavatam has been laid out very systematically as well. It tries to explain us how to take darshan of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the various cantos represent the various tops of the parts of the body of the Supreme Lord. The feet of the Lord, the thighs of the Lord, the waist of the Lord, the arms of the Lord, the chest of the Lord, the throat of the Lord, the beautiful face of the Lord, the forehead of the Lord, and the whole head of the Lord. These are the representations of the Lord in the 12 cantos. And then basically we are on the particular section, which is the cantos 3, and then cantos 4 represents the legs of the Lord or the thighs of the Lord. And interesting to know, this is one of the most longest cantos. There are 33 chapters, I believe, in this canto, which is one of the longest cantos in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he has many varieties of different types of subject matters. But the starting point is when the sages in the Nemasharani, they wanted to find out about Vidur. Now, it was quite interesting in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadev Goswami was detailing out all the different types of ways of creation that was formed of this material cosmic manifestation. And the sages in Nemasharani, they were not getting bored, but they found it maybe a little bit technical, and they really wanted to hear something regarding the personality of Vidur, because Vidur is a very incredible personality. So the sages in Namasharana, headed by Shanaka Rishi, asked Sutta Goswami, now you can speak about Vidur and his conversations with Maitreya Rishi. And so this particular canto delves into that and various topics which entail from that point. And here, this section is about, we're going to hear about Kadamang Muni and Devahuti. And prior to that, we hear about Swambhuva Manu. Now, Manu title is an incredible job, because they uphold all the different types of laws for humanity, mankind, and how one should actually follow that. So one of the 10 subject matters is Saga and Visaga. Saga is the primary creation, and Visaga is the secondary creation. So we find that Lord Brahma is the secondary creator. But even we find that within Brahma, we find many different creators from Brahma. And we ourselves, as tiny little jivas, we find ourselves also creators in some kind. But ultimately, the ultimate point is that we cannot be independent creators. We have to depend completely on Krishna. And the Srimad Bhagavatam in the second canto explains the greatness and the vastness of the Supreme Personality Godhead in his cosmic manifestation as the universal form. And we have some idea that how great and powerful God is. We have some idea. but we cannot understand it and fully comprehend it. And so we find that we can try to understand some aspects to God. Subject of God is unlimited and unfathomable. It cannot be estimated. It is vast. It cannot be really understood properly. Srimad Bhagavad Gita explains in the 11th chapter that one can only understand Krishna by pure devotional service. This devotional service is an incredible way of understanding God. And one who actually follows this path of pure devotional service, they find themselves very much easy to understand and live with God. Our situation as the Atma is to be a servant to God. That's what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has told us. Jivara Swarapoi Krishna Nitya Das. And ultimately, that is the point of what we're supposed to realize. But the Atma, being in the spiritual world originally, decided to be independent to God. And when they wanted to be independent to God, immediately, it's like a moment, immediately assume a false ego, another identity. The other day I was just speaking to my daughter about, trying to understand false ego and real ego. People in English misunderstand the term ego. Somebody might say, oh, he's got a big ego. That really doesn't really convey exactly what ego is. Ego is a term that is used for something that is identifiable to that person. So when we say false ego, we find ourselves identifying with something that we're not. That is the material body. And the designations of this material body has many, many attributes to it. You could have a material body which is made of male form. You could be identifying with this body as being Indian or Chinese, according to nationality, etc. You can identify with this material body being beautiful, ugly, short, thin, etc. You can identify with this material body with the terms of aspects of wealth, rich or poor. You can identify with this material body that you're very strong, powerful, athletic. You can identify with this material body in terms of how well you are recognized in the world. So many designations pertaining to this material body, but they are all false. And when once you start to find yourself recognizing in that way, that's why it is regarded as false ego. But the real ego is to understand the identity of the soul. Right in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna that real ego is to understand that we are eternal parts and parcel of Krishna, and we are individual. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, there was never a time that I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. We will always exist at all times, at all places. That means the soul is always eternal and individual. Prabhupada gives series of lectures on this particular verse. Many classes on this subject matter to make us understand that the jiva's true position is to be a servant to God. That's the true identity. To be servant to God in a loving way. And he translates this very beautifully, the term bhakti, devotional service. Devotion means that we do something with love. We do it with great adoration. Sometimes we find that people in this world, they do various types of services, various types of jobs, working for different types of people in this world. But ultimately, the only point is to understand that those people who do those jobs, they do it for some sense gratification at the end. They want to gain something for their own self, their work. They want some money. They use that money for sense gratification and then basically use it for that purpose only. And when they start to use it for their own self, senses, etc., they find themselves being entangled further and further into this web of Maya, and they become embroiled in it, and they find it difficult to understand their true position. But actually, the idea is to understand that the soul, the true soul's nature, is to be loving to God. The nature of the soul is Sat Chit Ananda. That means one of the aspects is to be happy, Ananda. Srila Prabhupada said that if you do devotional service properly, you should find yourself happy. If you're doing devotional service and you're not happy, then something is wrong in what you're doing. Yeah. You should never think that I'm doing devotional service and I'm unhappy. Then there's something wrong in what you're trying to do. You're trying to do something to gain something for your own self. Yes. Actually, you should try to understand this very, very clearly, that we're doing this for giving pleasure to Krishna. Whatever activities we do in devotion service, chanting the names of Krishna, cooking for Krishna, making garlands for Krishna, singing for Krishna, dancing for Krishna. Whatever you do, whatever activities, anything, hearing about Krishna, talking about Krishna, we should only have the mentality of doing it that Krishna is pleased. Yes. And once you have that mentality that Krishna is pleased, you automatically become pleased. So if you understand this principle, then you find yourself being happy. But if you find that you're doing all these activities for your own selfish reasons, then you find yourself actually disturbed by the pangs of material nature. And eventually you find that the selfish reasons that you have in the core of your heart will never be fructified into true happiness. And once you start to have that mentality, you find frustration in your life. And eventually, as Bhagavad Gita also explains, Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajaguna, Samadbhavan, it develops into incredible types of anger. So one should be very, very careful about trying to take the role of being an enjoyer. So this is what the Srimad Bhagavatam is trying to entail to us, to be a servant to God and try to make us understand. We are in the section of today's chapter, which is about Manu, Swambhuva Manu, and how it is relevant to us. So we'll discuss it. And it's quite lengthy, especially this verse 33 is quite lengthy in purport. But if we can try to do as much as possible, service. Do I have a time limit, Gopi Manohar Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. It's around generally 45 to 50 minutes. But if the purport is too long, we can take more time.
What is, okay, so it's 45. So it's, I would imagine it's now India time is 9:26, correct?
Yeah. You can take 45 minutes or 50 minutes.
So that's a 9:26. So basically your time 10 o'clock, correct?
No, you can take 10:15.
10:15. Okay. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami mentioned, I can only speak as how much I know realization of Krishna, just like the birds. They can fly as high as possible according to their abilities. So I'll try to speak as much as possible according to my ability. Harismatim nama vibhur yam niveshya samavasat tasyam pravisto bhavanam tap. Which was filled with... what happened? Are you okay? Can you hear me?
Hear you now. Yeah. In between, it got paused for a few seconds, but it's okay now. We can hear you.
Okay. Having entered the city of Barismati, in which he had previously lived, Manu entered his palace. which was filled with an atmosphere that eradicated the three miseries of material existence. This is very, very important to read. Now let's see what Shilpa says. Okay, we discussed that just in the introduction side. The material world, let me just put my glasses on. The material world or material existential life is filled with threefold miseries: miseries pertaining to the body and mind, miseries pertaining to natural disturbances, and miseries inflicted by other living entities. Human society is meant to create a spiritual atmosphere by spreading the spirit of Krishna consciousness. The miseries of material existence cannot affect the status of Krishna consciousness. It is not that the miseries of material world completely vanish when one takes to Krishna consciousness, but for one who is Krishna conscious, the miseries of material existence have no effect. This is a very important point. We'll come back to it. We cannot stop the miseries of the material atmosphere, but Krishna consciousness is the antiseptic method to protect us from being affected by the miseries of material existence. For a Krishna conscious person, both living in heaven and living in hell are equal. How Swayambhuva Manu created an atmosphere wherein he was not affected by material miseries is explained in the following verses. So I'm sure that many devotees, they come to Krishna consciousness. This philosophy is wonderful. I've at last found God. God, I know, is now Krishna. Okay, once I come to Krishna, he will protect me and he will do everything for me. And as soon as you start to have the mentality, you think, okay, I will never ever have any kind of problems in life. Everything will be a straight road. That's where the problem lies, that you're thinking that basically that Krishna should do everything for you. So that's where the problem is. The plus point is that you've recognized Krishna, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality Godhead. But once you start to still have that mentality that you still want to be the enjoyer, still being so-called a devotee, a Krishna conscious devotee, but still having a mentality of being an enjoyer, then you still have problems in suffering in this material world. So pure devotional service is to understand that everything is for the pleasure of the Lord. Everything pertains to how we perceive the world. If we see the world as our only goal for us to enjoy our senses, then you will find yourself always frustrated, because the senses that we have in our material body are very limited in experiencing the joys. For example, if you want to eat, let's say you like eating gulab jamun. Now, when you eat a gulab jamun and you bite into a gulab jamun, you find the succulent, tasty, golden brown bowl with incredible golden syrup that is flowing through it. And you bite the first bite and the juices are really taking so much beautiful action throughout your mouth, and you feel, oh, this is just nectar, this is amrit, this is like heaven. Yeah. And you feel like, I want to eat one more. Then you eat one more. You go, this is too good. Really very, very amazing. I've never experienced this. You take another one. And then you find there's a limit. Sometimes people have competitions in gulab jamun eating. But let's say there's always a limit in how many you can eat. Yeah, there's a limit. You can't eat the same thing. Or sometimes we find relativity in this world in enjoyment of something. You just fasted and you're now ready to dive into the beautiful thali that is awaiting you with so many different types of succulent, tasty sabjis and savories and sweets and all these different types of breads and cakes and so on and juices. And you're waiting to dive into it, and somebody comes and tells you some terrible news that somebody in your family has passed away. That same thali that was right in front of you, find that it's detestable. You can't even look at it. Yeah, and you're hungry still. But the world is like that. It's very relative according to how we perceive it. But once you try to understand everything in reference to Krishna, then all the tasks in this world becomes very easy. Arjun didn't want to fight. We hear that in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna made him change his mindset, make him understood that you do it for me. As soon as as soon as Arjun understood this concept, he found the battle to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra was very, very easy because he was doing it for Krishna. The first point that he wanted to do was to think that I want to be the enjoyer. I don't want to fight, I'll be the enjoyer, not fighting. So all these points we find in this material world that we do it for our own personal sense gratification. So here it mentions very, very clearly that the mysteries of this world are always going to be there. Yeah, we are basically Adi Bautik, Adi Devik, Adi Atmik. They're all pertaining to all the different types of troubles, sufferings that we go through. But how we react to those sufferings and how our mindset is there, those sufferings have no effect. In this material world, you'll find yourself always disturbed, and the pains will be always there on your material body. That includes your mind. But the suffering is actually optional. You don't have to suffer according to how you take the position. A devotee of the Lord takes everything, good or bad, as the mercy of the Lord. Everything according to the Lord's mercy, everything is perfect. Good things happen, oh, Krishna's mercy, everything is wonderful. Bad things happen, take it as Krishna's mercy also. So everything has a result due to Krishna. Once you start to understand this, then you find yourself actually being happy because everything you see in the light of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada one time during India-Pakistan war was frying some puris, and the devotee said, you should black out the curtains because no light should come out and penetrate from the house. Otherwise, the enemy sees there is some light there and they will target that particular place. Srila Prabhupada says that whatever the bombs come down, I'll see that bomb as Krishna. This is how the pure devotees see things in this world. They see things in such light that they find themselves always happy that Krishna is there, good or bad. Good and bad is only a concept for the materialist. For the devotees, everything is pure goodness, so the sattva. Good in the material sense is always bad because it's material. But good in spiritual sense is always good. So everything has some kind of, everything in this material world we find that we see in light of Krishna is perfect. Yes. Even let's say you take a particular flower and you find that it's slightly, the edges are sort of not perfect. Then you find that when you look at it, that why it's not perfect, you think about maybe it's a worm that ate the edges of the flower. And you think, oh, how wonderful that there is an insect that likes this flower and he ate it. So once you start to see in that light, you find that the world is so perfect because you see everything in the light of Krishna. Okay. So this is how Swayambhuva saw everything in this material world. Okay, he saw everything in light of Krishna. And that's why he wanted to surround himself with Krishna consciousness. We can speak about it later once we read the next verse. Okay. Sabariya sapraja kaman buje navariyatota sanyamana satkriti irtihi satribhi suraghayakai pratyashusha nubadena titasinvana hare kataha. Emperor Swayambhuva Manu enjoyed life with his wife and subjects and fulfilled his desires without being disturbed by unwanted principles, contrary to the process of religion. Celestial musicians and their wives sang in chorus about the pure reputation of the emperor. And early in the morning, every day, he used to listen to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality Godhead with a loving heart. Before I go into the purport, I was talking to one devotee many years ago, about maybe 25 years ago. This is back when I was in London. And at that time, there's a thing which came out where you can store all your music on an MP3 player. You can store all your thing there, and you could have, I don't know, so much GB onto it. I can't remember the GB count, but and he just came out. He came to me and he says, "Look, this it was about this big," and he says, "Here I've got all Srila Prabhupada's lectures, every single lecture of Srila Prabhupada, all his kirtans. Then I have all the lectures of his Guru Maharaj, etc., all in one place." And every day he would listen in the morning to Srila Prabhupada or any of the lectures or anything to do with devotional service to Krishna. And he would completely be conscious of Krishna because he was always engrossed in that. If we have facilities to hear about Krishna, and Swami Manu had that type of MP3 that people would be in his palace or his home and would sing the glories of the Supreme Lord at all times. They would be talking about Krishna, singing about Krishna, and Swami Manu was listening to it all the times. In our modern day, we have these gadgets, we use it for Krishna service. Otherwise, those gadgets become completely useless. Yeah. In the morning, I remember his Grace Kratu Prabhu in the early days when he used to come. This is going back many years ago. He used to come to our house, and then at the time the phone started to have recordings, and you would listen from the moment he woke up to the moment he went to sleep. Whenever there was a free moment, he would listen to a lecture of Srila Prabhupada. And I listened, and I got the ideas from him that, this is what our life is all about, is to hear and chant the glories of the Supreme Lord from pure devotees. So we have all these different types of things. If you have the facilities like Swami Manu, he had all these facilities. He used it perfectly. Otherwise, you find emperors of this world, the kings of this world, etc. They misuse all these different types of things for their own sense gratification without actually having any kind of desires to hear about the Supreme Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam explains in the first canto all these different types of aspects which doesn't bring about a taste for hearing about the Supreme Lord is simply waste of time. Shlama eva hi kevalam. Human society is actually meant for realization of perfection in Krishna consciousness. There is no restriction against living with a wife and children, but life should be so conducted that one may not go against the principles of religion, economic development, regulated sense enjoyment, and ultimately liberation from material existence. Okay, just read that bit again. But if life should be so conducted that one may not go against, all these points. The Vedic principles are designed in such a way that the conditioned souls who have come to this material existence may be guided in fulfilling their material desires and at the same time be liberated and go back to God and back home. So what Srila is telling us, that we have various types of facilities in this world. Use it for Krishna service. Nothing wrong with having various types of possessions, but use it for the sense of using it for Krishna. That is called Yukta Vairagya. Using everything for for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And the more you start to do that, yes, we are conditioned in this material world and we do want some selfish interest and we do want to enjoy various things. And yes, we will use it. But ultimately try to prolong use it more for Krishna, and the more you do it for Krishna, the more you find yourself detached for using it for yourself. It is understood that Empress Swambhuva Manu enjoyed his household life by following these principles. It is stated here that early in the morning there were musicians who used to sing with musical instruments about the glories of the Lord, and the emperor with his family personally used to hear about the pastimes of the Supreme Person. This custom is still prevalent in India in some of the royal families and temples. Professional musicians sing with sahanais, and the sleeping members of the house gradually get up from their beds in a pleasing atmosphere. During bedtime also the singers sing songs in relationship with the pastimes of the Lord with sanai accompaniment. Sanai is a particular type of instrument, and the householders gradually fall asleep remembering the glories of the Lord. This is actually perfect, isn't it? We find Shilpa told the devotees in the early days. I remember my Guru Maharaj when he was residing in New Vrindavan in USA, and he goes daily at night. The only meal was actually hot glass of milk and one cookie or maybe two cookies. But the main part was they would get together in a group and read Krishna book. And as soon as they would read the Krishna book, after about 30, 40 minutes, they would go to sleep. And then they would have dreams about that. So this is the idea, that try to make your life in such a way that read about Krishna just before going to sleep, because otherwise you find yourself engrossed with so many things in this material world, thinking about all the uh, world affairs. You'll have bad dreams. You'll have dreams which have no relationship with Krishna. But if you dream about, if you talk about Krishna or hear about Krishna or read about Krishna, then the very good chance is that you become conscious of Krishna just before sleep, and your consciousness in your dreams become very, very beautiful. In every house, in addition to the singing program, there is an arrangement for Bhagavatam lectures in the evening. Family members sit down, hold Hare Krishna Kirtan, hear narrations from Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and enjoy music before going to bed. So all these things should be implemented in our daily lives. The atmosphere created by this Sankirtan movement lives in their hearts, and while sleeping, they also dream of the singing and glorification of the Lord. In such a way, perfection of Krishna consciousness can be attained. This is what Shilpa is telling us. Yeah, this practice is very old, as learned from this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Millions of years ago, Swami Manu used to avail himself of this opportunity to live household life in the peace and prosperity of a Krishna conscious atmosphere. So it is relevant as it was in Swami Manu's time, as it is to us right now at this present moment. Be conscious of Krishna. The more you become conscious of Krishna, the more you become actually enlivened. The more you become enlivened, the more you find yourself not being disturbed to the surroundings of your area or your life or your wherever you are. You could be living in the most decrepit place in this world, or you could be living in the most incredible palatial surroundings. But in any of those places, good or bad, if it's nothing to do with Krishna, it becomes hellish. So basically surround yourself always with Krishna consciousness. That's why when we go to a devotee's house, you find everywhere they go, you'll find only paraphernalia of pictures, paintings of Krishna. You'll find different types of ornaments, artifacts, all related to Krishna. That's the devotee, because he wants to find something in relationship to Krishna, try to remember Krishna. Right now, I'm just using a friend's car because my car has to go for repair. And in his car is a devotee. He has a Krishna murti on top, and then he has various types of things in the car. He has what you always tie on your hand, something, like a yagna thread on the steering wheel, etc. So everything around his car is just simple things. He has this, the Jagannath beads on the thing, all different things that he has to just remind us of Krishna at all times. This is the idea that we should always be conscious of Krishna. Krishna said about Gita, that think of me at the time of death. Because you do not know, if you don't think of Krishna, what will you attain? Yeah, your consciousness could be about something else. But basically become conscious of Krishna. So mold your life in such a way. As far as temples are concerned, in each and every royal palace or a rich man's house, inevitably there is a nice temple, and the members of the household rise early in the morning and go to the temple to see the Mangala Aratrika ceremony. The Mangal Aratrika ceremony is the first worship of the morning. In the Aratrika ceremony, a light is offered in circles before the deities, as are a conch shell and flowers and a fan. The Lord is supposed to rise early in the morning and take some light refreshment and give audience to the devotees. To do Aarti Araklika is not a big deal, whatever you can give. Krishna says, Pushpam Patram Pulam Dayam. That whatever you have, flower, fruit, leaf, whatever you have, just offer it. Just offer it with love. That's why it's so important. In the morning, we have the opportunity to give something. Please, Krishna, take this. It's from my heart. Give it. Doesn't have to be big, expensive thing. Doesn't have to have a paraphernalia of having a silver-plated aarti tray to offer it. Just have to offer it with your heart. That's the main ingredient. That is the main purpose. That's the main ornament. Yeah. The devotees then go back to the house or sing the glories of the Lord in temple. So this is also another very nice point. We find that sometimes we attend a particular kirtan, and the kirtan is so wonderful and so on. And the reverberation of the kirtan is always in your mind, that particular tune and so on, and it's just going in your mind. And when you go to sleep, you're just going, Hare Krishna, Krishna, that tune. And you wake up in the morning, and first thing that you remember is that tune also, Hare Krishna. Yeah. So you find yourself always in growth. So this is the idea also in your life. The early morning ceremony still takes place in India temples and palaces. Temples are meant for the assembly of the general public. Temples within palaces are especially for the royal families. But in many of these palace temples, the public is also allowed to visit. The temple of the king of Jaipur is situated within the palace, but the public is allowed to assemble. If one goes there, he will see that the temple is always crowded with at least 500 devotees. This is Govindaji temple. I'm sure many of you might have been there, but I would say even more than 500 devotees, maybe thousands for Mangalati. I had a good opportunity once going there, and there were thousands. After the Mangalatika ceremony, they sit down together and sing the glories of the Lord with musical instruments and thus enjoy life. Temple worship by the royal family is also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, where it is stated that those who fail to achieve success in Bhakti Yoga principles within one life are given a chance to take birth in the next life in a family of rich men, or in a royal family, or family of learned brahmanas or devotees. This is in the 6th chapter. If one gets the opportunity to take birth in these families, he can achieve the facilities of a Krishna conscious atmosphere without difficulty. A child born in that Krishna atmosphere is sure to develop Krishna consciousness. The perfection which he failed to attain in his last life is again offered in this life, and he can make himself perfect without fail. So we find many of our devotees, they have children, and the children now are very much engrossed in Krishna things, related. They're very good Matanga players, kirtan singers. They learn shlokas, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and they have the opportunity because the family was basically induced into Krishna consciousness by devotees, and now they mold their life in such a way so they have a new member as a child coming into their family. The whole family becomes that the child becomes so engrossed in this is the way of life, molds his life in such a way. I recently, just yesterday, I was meeting somebody. They came. They have twin boys, just been born about a few months back. The boys are named Krishna Balaram actually, and they showed me the video clips. They said that sing Hare Krishna, try to do things on Krishna and so on. So you find that once you become a devotee, those who come into your family, newborn, they had some piety of doing some Krishna conscious activities prior life, and due to that they have the opportunity. And we find that Sripad has created this incredible wave of mercy that is spreading all over the world, and we become instruments in that. The idea is that we should completely be fixed in this way of life. If we are fixed in this way of life, then we become completely engrossed. I'll give an example of some pastime in Leela. There was a great devotee, as you all remember, Ramananda Rai. And there was one particular Bengali devotee. His name was Pradyumna Mishra. And Pradyumna Mishra approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, goes, please, I want to hear about Krishna, talk about Krishna, and so on. Funny enough, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him to approach Ramananda Rai instead of him giving the talk about Krishna. So Pradyumna Mishra, this is in Jagannath Puri, by the way. So Ramananda Rai went to this particular place of Ramananda Rai, his home. And the servant of Ramananda Rai said that he's actually now massaging young girls, their personal bodies. And so you please take your, just wait here. And Ramananda Rai was actually decorating these young girls, massaging them, decorating them for the pleasure of the Lord, because there's a particular natak that they do, a drama, where there's particular dance performance in that. And Ramananda Rai, it's described by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, so much how to say, he is not even concerned with the bodies of these girls. Although he's a man, he identifies himself as one of the gopis in serving these girls, in serving Krishna. He was so engrossed in this. Ramananda Rai was so engrossed in this that he doesn't identify with his body. And Pradyumna Mishra waited for Ramananda Rai to finish his duties and come and talk about Krishna. And eventually the servant came back. He says that, sorry, that Ramananda Rai is still busy. Maybe you can come back another time. So he went back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Pradyumna Mishra. He says, this was the situation. He goes that you should go back again and try to learn Krishna from him. So another day he went back, and this time Ramananda Rai was free, and he spoke about Krishna Katha. At that time, Ramananda Rai asked him, what would you like to hear about Krishna Katha? He goes, whatever comes from your heart. Maybe you can speak from something that you had a conversation with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Vidyanagar when he went on the South India tour. It's called Ramananda Bad. You can maybe talk about that. And when Ramananda Rai spoke so beautifully about Krishna Katha, so beautifully explained every aspect to it, Pradyumna Mishra went into ecstasy. He goes, this type of talk I've never heard before. This is just pure, beautiful katha that just flowing, easing past into my core of my heart. And he couldn't be, he was so ecstatic that after the katha had finished, he was congratulating Ramananda Rai. This type of nectar I've never ever experienced ever in my life. And Ramananda Rai says that whatever I speak is only due to the mercy of the Supreme Lord. It's not me speaking. This is the humility. Srila explains, this is the humility of a devotee. He never feels himself that he is the actual doer. Yeah. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 3rd chapter, he says one who identifies thinking that he's the doer is actually, in a false identification, false ego. So one should understand that he's not a doer. Krishna is the ultimate doer. But Krishna uses you as an instrument to become a topic become a subject of his mercy on you, so that you can become an instrument in his service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used many personalities in his association to work for him and do tasks for him. Sanatana Rupa, all the different types of 6 Goswamis, he used them for doing various types of subject matters for him to propagate Krishna consciousness. We find with our own Srila Prabhupada that he used him to spread Krishna consciousness. He made his life very, very difficult. He didn't give him a free passage on an egg ticket, or he gave him a cargo ship that was very, very dangerous. Even Srila Prabhupada suffered 2 heart attacks on it. But Krishna makes that devotee glorious by doing these acts of sacrifice. Ultimately, the idea is to sacrifice ourselves for the service of the Lord. The more you do sacrifice for the Lord, the more you find yourself actually being happy doing this sacrifice for Krishna. Madhavendra Puri done incredible sacrifices. Krishna used him as an instrument to dig out Gopal, Srinathji from at Govardhan, and basically installed him. And then he told him that please go to Puri to collect some sandalwood paste, sandalwood blocks, so they can use it for cooling me down because I'm feeling too hot. And he used it. Madhavendra Puri went all the way walking. In those days, there was no other modes of transport. It was only walking. And he went all the way fearlessly for the service of the Lord, for the sake of the Supreme Lord. And even then, in those days, there was dacoits, very dangerous. But Madhavendra Puri had no qualms about it. He would do it fearlessly, and he would do it with loving devotional sentiment. So this is the idea of actually making sure that we dovetail everything for the loving service of the Lord. Bhakti is so great. So going back to the story of Pradyumna Mishra, he was so happy with Chaitanya Prabhu that he brought me to Ramananda Rai. He showed me the topics about Krishna. And that is the greatness of what we should do. That we should think about Krishna, talk about Krishna, and speak about Krishna in all aspects. In every way that we can try to do things, we should try to do it always for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. The more we start to do things in such a way, the more we find ourselves happy. And bhakti is in that sense, basically trying to do it in a loving, appreciative manner. And one of the important aspects that Shilpad wanted from all of us is to be reciprocating in happiness in loving relationship with each other. The more we become happy in relationships with each other, in understanding our realization that this devotee has come to give me Krishna Katha, is trying to help me in my spiritual life. The more we try to appreciate that, the more we start to find good loving relationships. Relationships based on this actually is the real fruit. One should actually try to cultivate such mood. The more we have that type of mood of loving relationship with Krishna, the more people will come to our movement. And I say this movement is so based on love and trust that people will come just seeing the devotees being happy. So this is the idea. One should be having always a pleasing gesture, a pleasing countenance of the face, that basically they're always happy in bliss of pure devotion service. There are many devotees in our movement, Shilpa's disciples. One particular Mataji, her name was Kunti Devi, and she was suffering from cancer. And this story was related by my Guru Maharaj. And she was suffering from cancer, and she was in the particular last days of her life. And if you have painful cancer, it's very painful in the whole body and so on. And she stopped taking a particular drug called the morphine, which basically alleviates the pain, because the pain is so great. And she stopped taking this particular drug, morphine. And the doctors and nurses in that particular hospice or hospital, they couldn't believe that this lady who's so much in pain, about to leave her body, she looks so happy. She looks so happy in Krishna consciousness that we feel that we have good, healthy bodies and we're suffering, and we have turmoils in our family lives, we have turmoils in our daily lives, we have turmoils in every aspect of life. But she's about to leave her body and she's in pain. Yeah. And she looks so happy and blissful that when devotees come and they speak about Krishna to her, she feels great happiness, because we have never experienced this type of thing ever before in our lives. So just by them appreciating this devotee who's in bliss, Krishna sees that they have started their bhakti or devotional service. So that lady, I'm sure the name is Kunti Devi Dasi, and she left this world, and then basically in bliss. And such person in bliss is always in bliss in the spiritual world also, because they're always with Krishna. And that's the idea, is to become Jivan Mukta, living in this material body right now, being always happy, and liberated in your transcendental spiritual body with living with Krishna. All the same, because your consciousness is all to do with Krishna. So I'll end it there. I'm not too sure. Do you have questions or comments? Please forgive me if I spoke wrong. Please forgive me if I've not spoken properly. Please forgive me for all the offenses Please forgive me for any misgivings, and just shower your blessings and mercy on me. Hare Krishna.